7:00 and we can start with approval of the meeting minutes from the previous meeting. We received.
Mrs. Robinson, were there any typos?
I did see it. I actually thought I saw one, but I haven't seen it.
Start putting it on purpose.
Do I hear a motion to approve?
Second.
All right, all in, motion and second, all in favor to approve? Aye.
Aye.
We're all here, so we don't have to do it. Okay. Treasurer's report.
Nothing to report.
Okay.
I said,
Oh, you lied.
Ooh, that's tough. Be careful
You
what
know,
you
you
say, Margaret.
5 minutes.
I believe you lied. In my opinion, it feels as though you lied to me. So, anyway. Yes, so planners report, we received the planners report today, and did anyone have any questions?
Did have a question on the site plan. The parklet will require a site plan most likely.
Oh, yeah.
Correct?
Yeah.
Traffic studies, is that for 140 mostly?
Or any road in town, it sounded like.
Yes, yeah, so under discussion on tonight's agenda, but the chair wants to move it up, we can move it up. I just wanted input from the planning board as to whether or not you felt that there were roads that are of particular concern or specific interest that you think would be good to have traffic counts on. There was something that was, I forget what the something was, that was urging us to do traffic counts on East Street. So I will reach out, and I have reached out to CMRPC to see what their schedule is to start doing the counts and see what that process is to request traffic counts.
So the background on traffic is we usually have a larger subdivision that we require that from them. We haven't had one in how long, so
Yeah.
we'd have to pay for our own, would have to get some grant to do it. That's why I was saying at 140, that's the state would be doing the traffic, right?
The state, we're not gonna do 140
Okay.
because that is the state. And we would we would have CMRPC do the local roads. So like, just like, East Street's a local road, I was thinking like maybe South Street, any of these more like cut through roads, Cider Lane possibly, like.
Right, with Governor's Lane, and to get to 495, they're gonna go left and to the right and then
You're
take,
gonna go up Christian Hill there too.
and that's gonna take a lot of traffic.
Yeah.
So we're gonna talk about
Which roads?
some alternative streets that are.
Yeah.
Because, the other thing is there will be streets impacted by the reconfiguration of the, that it's due to the 140 project.
Yeah.
Get a sneeze?
All right, so we can talk about traffic counts afterwards. Anything else from the planners report? So now we're on A&R plan.
Oh, you have, so the Jane is here.
Bring us here, I know.
I'm sorry. I didn't mark that.
I'm sorry, questions. If that's not a lot line or a configuration change, why would it be any one X suffice instead of an 81 feet? If you're just redrawing the existing lot lines and not changing anything in impact going.
That's a good question. Is it 81X is,
Just a redraw of existing lot. lines?
yeah,
No
may
change.
not necessarily require planning board.
It does not,
correct.
it's not,
It's not. Well,
what are the changes?
we can certainly look at that. There's no changes that are happening, but Gene, correct, there's no changes that are happening to the lot line. You more or less just certifying that through the, this is the lotting plan essentially from the special permit that it arise. I guess you typically wouldn't have a situation where you have a large lot frontage reduction or any other really type of special permit approval that creates building lots, but then wouldn't result in something that establishes new lot lines, right? So this is very unique.
I don't know what we'd be
Indoor.
approving that would be not already approved with this recorded plan.
I mean, you can take the position if you felt it was valid, or if you wanted to suggest that. So for now, just remove the planning board endorsement and take this plan with the special permit and go to the deeds with that. Otherwise, you could potentially take the position that his plan provided before you tonight does not require subdivision approval, which is sort of splitting hairs a bit. You know what I mean?
Since all have frontage, right?
They all have frontage, they all have the
Yeah.
required frontage.
What's the, was there any additional note lines or notes with this submission?
Now, this is what you,
What's already approved. Yeah.
But each house has its own, it's all,
There's just two, just,
yeah, it's two pages.
but, all right, yeah, so but both those houses are affected. Nothing would be affected by signing this plan. They'd still have.
What do you mean? As far as negatively or
Yeah,
not at all?
Negatively or at all, it wouldn't be affected. But if we don't sign this plan, these houses are still legally. Located.
I think so. Hopefully the registry would,
Well, they've been filed under a planning board approval not required.
yes,
So
under the subdivision control.
subdivision
So
control,
you'd be
only through the large lot are they put in, right?
so we approved them through the large
That's
lot.
the only one we've done, but that doesn't have anything to do with this plan, I don't.
the large lot, well, what
Well,
does
these are
have to
the
do with,
things that were created by the large lot.
what I'd say it does have to do with this plan is the fact that otherwise you'd have insufficient frontage,
Mhm.
right? So, by, that plays into the certification that under the conditions or the review criteria for an A&R, frontage is one of those review criteria.
I hear it, but the
Yeah.
premise of the whole thing is here.
Yeah.
It doesn't have enough frontage.
Right.
So
Yeah.
the whole premise that we signed it under a large lot is because of that, so.
Which then I mean, you basically enacted or, what's the term? You brought these building lots online essentially by the
Mhm.
approval of the special permit, right?
Yeah, and each one of them correctly
Mm-hmm.
with an 81P.
No, right?
You don't
No.
record this as an 81P?
So they will be recorded as an EV, but it was always, the engineers understood, and I understood it was a two-step process.
Yes.
First, get what you did.
Yeah.
Which is approve the the special permit, which is basically a subdivision. Then, now you have
Okay.
lots that are defined that need to
Need to
be
be
signed off
signed.
by an A&R.
We're best signing this then.
Yeah,
I think so.
that was the theory.
I don't think, and not to harp on it, but I don't think the board would be making any sort of misstep as far as putting your signature in this, because you are attesting to that it does not require approval under the subdivision control act, which is true.
Mhm.
And I think it's the only way you can get the deed description act. And also, there are other things that are required in an A&R, like the topography
Mhm.
and certain other things that weren't included in the, special permit.
Yeah, I worry about signing something that overdoes something else that is now the different, now you get two different signed plans up on file.
Yeah.
This is good. If this overrides them both, then that's.
Yeah, that's a great distinction to make, Tom. I mean, like I said, it's a very unique case. You probably won't ever have something like this before you again.
Not that we don't want to see it, yeah.
Do I have?
Well,
a-
I have to have another committee so I can, have the same amount of tenure that you have.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
I'll start signing, Tom, or you want me to start?
Yep. Chairperson. Cedar Flush, #1.
Until we reorganize tonight.
That's
So-
Oh, I forgot to have
Yeah, I was
that on
gonna
the
say,
agenda, so I'll have it on.
So you're,
I reminded you.
he's just terrified, Tom.
All right, so this is 2 pages. The plans,
Yes, it's one for each of the lots.
okay. Line 2.
Those two. You get the magic pen, that.
There we go.
If I don't sign it this way, you can prove it. I signed it one time, it's fine. Perfect, because I don't know what the other people doing. And then the registry.
Well, since you signed your piece of paper that says this is what your
Yes.
signature looks like.
Yes.
You do? Yes.
Yeah, you already signed
You
it.
already signed it. I did.
Yeah.
Yeah. You've done it every year.
Just give me something else.
You better match. Practice your signature. Make sure you match it up.
Okay, are there any other A and R plans tonight?
Yeah, you do have one more, in my email, 12 Stoddard Street, it presents on theirs.
Okay,
Yeah, much more
Yeah.
clear at the table first.
I understand this one.
Where is it?
This is the house with the sort of lot. and
What we
apartments.
approved, because we're gonna part of the.
Horses will park.
It's-
Yes, yes.
Right.
Well, thank the Lord. The attorney's letter with Glenn was really interesting. Going back to like 18.
That was where you put your buggy.
Mhm.
You got us to the horse ring.
You
and
work.
this sort of stuff.
That's where they put your buggy.
You got it.
Yeah, none of us
That's
have
where all the
like-
town business really got done.
Yeah.
comes with a,
I think it's one, two,
Why
three,
ridiculous.
what we gonna put the horse in.
you only need to sign
Yeah.
two of each.
She's pushing.
So
along,
there's-
so there's no spot.
That's all, it's just four.
You like horses?
We want extra
Go horse
copies.
love.
Ah,
There's two signed and one unsigned for each
Okay.
plan.
Here, you stand. I
If you like, no, you don't go.
don't go, no, have transportation.
Yeah, no.
I got a dog in the car. My set.
I was driving my doors all the time.
I got one home, when I was young, teenager.
Yeah,
No. True,
is that right?
that's it. Yeah.
you still got your golf?
You really did that.
What are you looking for, Kathy? Looking at it. You can ignore these. I want to.
Yeah, obviously.
As much as you should.
Was that yours?
You're asked, been asked, it across the street, the church, making it come.
I think
You want a second?
One of the things, and I think that's one of what does, and then last one it says, that you give suggestions to the town, to how we do it. And it's, yeah, it needs. You should. Study again. What that cost and take a look. Wanted to put in now.
Let's talk about that then. We got another ring. All right, so
Yeah.
we have so start Stoddard Street. Who's here for Stoddard?
I am.
Okay.
So, I represent, the 12 Stoddard Street Realty Trust who purchased this parcel. And they've, they're beautiful. I don't know if you've seen what they've done. They've done, yeah. And when that was purchased, we purchased the property. My client did, knowing that there was this area in front of the property that, as you were saying, might have been used as a horse or whatnot. And we approached the town to see if we could clean that up. It goes right in the front yard of the property. It's all, it's been sort of used by the owners of the property for years. I don't think they were aware of this. If they were, it was in the town, I think it's a long. And so we put together a plan to clean that up. Take the responsibility of that discontinuation area away from the town and put it in to the owner's hands of the folks on it. And that's what this plan is for.
Yeah, so we already approved.
Yeah, I
this,
know.
but this is now just signing an A and R
So
to.
the board has already endorsed, basically this A and R plan. David, correct me, I don't believe anything with regard to the boundaries of this has changed.
Not whatsoever. The only thing that changed between the two plans is if you look at the area on the right side that has the that parcel there.
Mhm.
Another parcel came in, my client bought the side parcel. And our title work,
So beyond the stone wall
yes,
is this whole area. Okay.
Okay.
and that was added.
So you're simply adding a parcel to the lot?
Well, they're combined, and what we did the title work to try to find out who owned Stoddard Street, and we went back on the title work.
For a planning board,
Yes.
it's just adding a parcel, it's a 50,
Do a lot.
it's $50 and it's not, it doesn't do anything except add land. to the thing. So,
That's correct.
yeah, so it's just $50 and we sign.
That's fine. I brought a check.
We take cash, no?
Yeah, so,
Do you accept checks?
Yeah.
yeah, so per my email, to the
Yeah.
board, I was unsure of the
Yeah.
changes,
Oh,
so.
Because if you've got a land
Yeah.
surveyor stamp on it, you pretty much know your lines are set. And it's in
Yeah,
conformation, so this is,
this is expanding, it's not.
so now it's a discontinued plan of, that's, now you're talking about this again. So if you're just adding this, that's really not a discontinued plan, it's an accepted plan and you're adding on, this has already been accepted.
That's fair. Yeah, we could probably, yeah, you could probably just I could probably just give you the plans that have already been endorsed and go record this, and then we'll have this added after the fact. I mean,
So we endorsed, but they haven't been, what we already endorsed has not been recorded yet?
no, because it sounded like this addition came soon after, so.
This actually addition was part of the parcel that my client brought together. And when we did the title work, there was a meets and bounds description in one of the older deeds that we clarified.
So it's not that, I'm sorry. Through the chair, it's not that we're adding new land to it
Mhm.
today. It's that we are clarifying the plan that you already endorsed
No,
because
not.
the title.
No, this is
Okay.
this is a brand new plan, adding on. This plan should say, because there's already been one approved.
Yeah.
This is an additional plan.
So
This
I
is
think what
parcel
what
A.
we're hearing though is that what we approved here
Yeah.
did not get recorded.
Correct.
Correct.
So then the question,
But we have it in our files. We signed it and have it in our files.
Mhm.
That's gotta get, that's all.
Mhm.
This is either a brand new plan that we
Right.
take ours out and replace it. In which case this is correct. Or you just record what we've already done.
What's the pleasure of the board? I have the original plans.
but the original plan doesn't, if we record what we've already done, then you're gonna have to come back with
Yes.
the addition of this parcel.
Next year, all done one time.
Yeah,
But if we do this now, it's just
I
one,
like that.
okay, it's just one step.
I'm a little confused.
Yeah.
Is it actually adding anything or is it refining the boundaries?
It's adding, if.
No, I'm sorry, I thought you said that parcel was already part of the plan.
Not on the one we signed,
No.
Okay, I misunderstood.
not on the one we signed, right?
correct.
Okay.
So if we discontinue the one we sign this one,
Oh, with the old and with the new. Yes.
okay.
You want a new Form A and a fee?
Do we need a new Form A for that?
Yeah, it's brand new.
Okay, do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
I
You'll have to give my, Form A.
You have the old Form A?
Yes, yes. I go, not here, oh, is it here with me now? Hold on.
Anybody want to waive the filing fee? You've already paid the running on it. Go ahead. But
I'll move.
I do not have it
Yeah.
with
Okay.
me here. What's up?
No, do I have a motion and a second? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so we just waived your filing fee for the refile, so. since we just did this. Thank Tommy for.
You can have a signature on this. Right on this.
No room for them.
Mike, if you.
That's okay. It's just like it's not-
Then have to do it.
For sure.
I have it already signed, ready, but I just give it
And I'll hold on to that. I get that. That's terrible.
The pen swap, the great pen swap. Okay, so that was easy.
So was that parcel divided from another piece, or was that a freestanding parcel? Yeah. Interesting. Small parcel.
It was a small
Yes.
parcel.
All right,
Elastics, okay.
any other Form As here?
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
It seems from that lawyer's letter that Stodge Street's pretty funky.
Mhm.
You know, the
Yeah.
way it's said, yeah.
I don't think you want to dissect that lawyer, because that was,
All this one next to the, hopefully has.
we will have boys and buggies on it. According to that.
Yeah, one across the street where they have the dispute about the, no, that's Crockett.
No, it's Crockett.
Okay.
Okay, moving on to Mayflower Drive, Hartford Highlands, discussion on status of the subdivision improvements. Is that the letter I just signed?
Oh, yeah, so I provided, so at the last meeting, and I don't believe none of the, residents of Mayflower have joined us, just looking to see if they had or not, but, at your last meeting, April 8th, you voted to find the subdivision in default of the subdivision approval and subdivision rules and regulations. So I just provided a letter, on behalf of the board that Mark just signed, detailing that to the developer. So I'll take another look at that and make sure it's good before I actually.
Or
And
just shoot me an
Yeah.
email, if you need me to come in. So I can do it.
absolutely, I won't make any changes without letting you know. At town meeting, town authorized, MGL 81U, I think it was.
Somewhere.
Yeah, which is, gives you the planning board the authorization to use the escrow funds in order to make the improvements, which we went over. It was just a legal protocol type of thing. And so now where are we with it? We've got to wait 90 days until the AG's office certifies town meeting results. And then,
Transfer the funds.
we have the funds.
Well, we gotta transfer them to the usable. Account.
Well, we can't, yeah.
Well, either way, I mean, if it needs to be transferred, I'll talk to Kenny about that. About how to, it probably just needs to be moved to an expense account. I mean, we typically pay out of the escrow accounts anyway, but I don't know the logistics of it. I'll talk to Kenny.
If we could pay for it with it, but it's not gonna cover it.
It's not gonna
Well,
cover
that's, I think we should just give it to them and use it up.
And also, I feel like when
Yes.
we pay for money out of escrow, it's with the intent that whatever's left in escrow goes back to the
Oh, that's a good point.
developer,
It
whereas.
does come back.
Legally, it may have to go to a
Good point.
different account. Yeah, okay. Yeah, good point. So I'll work on that, those fine details, I suppose, with finance director. And then, as you know, I'd already spoken with DPW about what the priorities would be as far as the list of things that need to happen for the completion of that subdivision. And that'll just be a matter of creative planning and timeline as far as what DPW can do, as far as what they have lined up for paving schedules and things like that. And if anything can be done to or for this subdivision. Both, I don't know about use of DPW's expenses. It's probably not the best plan, but I think my conversation with the town attorney was the town would want to and need to accept this road before any town money
Yeah, I was gonna say.
goes into it. So we do have to be, like I said, I'll have to be creative about how we use those funds with
Yeah.
DPW and
Because the
Yeah.
town won't accept the road until it's done.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
if we transfer it directly into an expense account, then we can't spend it because now it's.
so
We have a couple.
Yeah.
unfortunately, we might end up with a very uncomfortable result of having a very incomplete subdivision go for street acceptance and decide what to do with that.
Yeah.
Then where do you go from there? Just sit as it is, it stays in that state?
Yeah,
And what do they have? It's almost like, what, 80 grand,
70.
70?
Yeah. We forecasting, 120, 130, finish?
Oh, I think it was like 160.
Or is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I forget.
You blinked.
Next,
You blinked.
yeah,
Yeah, that, I mean,
next subdivision, we double our escrow.
that, I mean, the net cost estimate that I had DG do was last year.
And things have gone up.
But that's presumed like grant curbing and stuff,
It did, yeah, so there are other things that can be,
and we came up with some savings too.
Yeah.
So
yeah, so that's all considered, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the only other way to prevent that is to hold back a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. true.
Oh, that's
true.
what I'm thinking. I think that as we move forward, as we think about an escrow, we need to.
Well, we did that with Mickey's.
Yeah.
And what if we didn't though? What if we didn't hold that back?
But
we might
guess
have
you're right.
conducted to the planning board.
And our subdivision laws have to get changed too, so that this gets like automatically applied in the future, and we don't get caught in this,
Well,
as far as going after.
no, because we changed we adopted the actual law that allows us to use the money. going
use the money, yeah.
forward. And it's not specific to this.
Yeah, to answer the question, how do you ensure this doesn't happen?
Well,
Yeah,
the subdivision law, I think the attorney went after it because she said it didn't specifically like enact that part.
Right, and
Yes.
so that's what we examined.
exactly, yeah. That's now done, yeah, we check that box off.
Right,
So
right.
that is an act.
But now we have to put that in print, so to speak, in our subdivision law.
Oh,
Yes,
good question.
it will have to be added.
Yeah,
That would.
Yeah.
Does it go in the law or does it go in the regs? In the bylaw? or
But it's
the
still
regs?
effective.
Probably
It's effective.
Okay.
Because of the vote.
Because it's a subdivision.
yeah.
Yeah, we
So
can
that's
discuss it. It does.
one of the things we need to put on the checklist list for this year.
Yeah,
Up
and
to
then,
it, which is very good. People.
So I think I've mentioned it in my planner's report, CMRPC reached out to me about, applying through this grant round for updating the zoning, and that would be the second phase of doing their zoning analysis. My suggestion was, knowing that the subdivision rules and regulations have been a bit of a problem as of
Mhm.
late, applying to maybe get
Yeah.
funding to
Yeah.
rewrite those as well.
All right, should we?
That's it, no.
That's it on Main
no,
Street?
Yeah.
So we should move on to Sawbrook.
And it doesn't look like we have anybody
It doesn't,
from
we don't.
Sawbrook, but
Nope.
Is it just the size of the slope granite, the distance?
yes,
And we have used the smaller size before.
it
One-
appears that you have,
It's mostly for drainage, it's mostly
Mhm.
for drainage control. It's not gonna stop a vehicle, whether it's
oh,
slope
No,
granite
it's-
or just so. And some people said bituminous is better because we can fix that, so.
Yep.
I think it's minor change and we can vote on it. with
So the directors, the DPW directors thought that it would be less stable. I'm just passing that one, right?
Oh.
yeah, that was a question. He
Oh.
didn't know, it was like, will it make it less stable because there's less,
Below ground.
less below ground, so, but, I reached out to DGT, who was the peer review on it. They had no comment with regard to that claim.
Mhm.
So there's no, as far as I'm aware, there's no justification for that. I mean, there is a justification for that concern. I don't mean to put aside that claim. I think that's a very logical concern, but there's no research or anything that.
So did we find out if it's true that the larger size just is pretty much not sold anymore? Is that?
I
is that-
wasn't able to validate that.
Because I mean, if it's not less stable, I could imagine that it would become the industry standard to do the smaller size if it's just as stable as the bigger because.
Right, if that's what's being sold, then there's a reason for it.
Yeah.
But it's my understanding that the DOT proceeds with that type of curbing. But I think Bill, you looked into it too, but we couldn't.
It doesn't
The
exist,
DOT
right?
regs didn't seem to include dimensions for the grant.
Yeah.
It's
So-
not how it got installed.
Yeah.
Whatever size it was.
But
It didn't have any dimensions at all.
Not for the grant.
Either way, it does look like it's either been approved or installed elsewhere in town through other
Mhm.
subdivisions. Like I said, Hartford Highlands, it was approved.
But not installed.
But not installed, clearly it's not in there yet. So we have not been tested. But I'm also pretty sure that's what's in at Summer Circle. When I looked at their plans unfortunately didn't label the dimensions of their sloped curb.
Tommy, were you sick those days?
It's such a fine detail.
I know, well,
You could tell the DPW, just don't hit it with their plow,
I'll tell you.
Yeah,
we'll be fine.
so. that's where we are.
All right, so do I have a motion on this, or do we want to just postpone this until someone from Sawbrook is here to discuss?
Well, this vote is just to see if it's a
A major or
major,
minor?
minor. And I would
Well, if
say-
it's minor, then we're not gonna be asking for any other review of it. If it's major,
Yeah.
if we really have serious concerns about whether it's going to work as well, then we should call it a major concern, and then it has to go out for peer review. If it's minor, we're just saying, yeah, it's got.
And from this conversation, do people consider it major?
I think it's minor, put it in the as-built.
I don't have.
I can't see it.
Yeah, exactly.
I would say that I don't typically give an opinion on these, but I would agree if it's a minor change.
Okay, do I have a motion?
I move that we treat it as a minor change.
Do I have a second?
Second,
All right, all in favor?
I,
All right, thank you. Do we want to now vote on the proposed change?
yes, I move that we approve the change.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second,
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. They've also asked to release lots. Do we have a letter?
We do not have a letter.
Maybe this gets postponed.
I don't know if I
till next
asked them for one yet or not. I received an email expressing interest, but I don't know if that qualifies as a letter.
so we release lots when they've done the calculation.
So that was, my email to the board tonight. I wanted to just, on this item, just confirm your process, which is you want a formal letter from the developer requesting release from the covenant.
And stating that they have completed.
They would stipulate the least to the point of laying of the binder.
Yeah.
Point lane bar or 80%.
Yeah,
which is
And there's definitely no binder.
Okay, so no lots without a binder being down.
Okay.
Unless it went down today.
And then it would be a list, a calculation of the remaining work, the remaining 20% if it's 20%.
I passed it.
And so the calculation, the 20% calculation of opinion on probable cost for the remaining construction to be done is the board's typical process to then have the peer review validate that opinion.
Make sure we get the right enough. money.
Yeah, especially considering
That's-
what has just happened.
And this is where we are with the other one. We've got the lots we're releasing, so we make sure we hold enough money to finish the project.
Finish the project.
Right, they're gonna tell us how much, we have it verified that this is how much the last 20% is gonna be. We hold that amount plus 10%.
Yeah,
And
and
then if they don't do anything, now we got the 81 you will weeks.
But-
Yeah,
obviously we didn't hold enough last time on the Highlands, so.
yeah, gotcha.
Okay, so we're gonna move past that. We know, you'll confer with them about the 80% binder coat and the letter requesting and telling us how much it's gonna cost to complete so that we can,
We'll get that,
all right, great.
Was there any conservation issues down there?
They are getting their lots reviewed through Concom right now, the building lots. There are definitely concerns, given its location.
It's crossing the
Yes.
stream, and there's a long one.
Our approval should be subject to their. approval.
Yeah.
Or release of the lot should be
Right.
subject.
Okay, so that was Sawmill, Sawmill Brook Lane, 130 South Street. Proposed 4-lot subdivision.
Welcome.
Not sure if the location for me to stand.
Do we have these? Yes.
Here, I'll bring it up on here.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
I just have one sheet that was colored, so I think something will be open mic.
Looks.
No, like we're 30. Okay, perfect.
Oh, okay, all right.
On South Street.
Yeah, so this is, this is, on,
Yeah.
this is capped, and this is just north of.
Okay,
This is where Chestnut's been.
yeah,
That
coming back.
block goes all the way over to Chestnut on the other side.
It's not connected, but it does abut the lots off of Chestnut.
Okay.
Okay, talk us through it.
Agree.
So good evening for the record, John Federico, Distributor in Elmont, and I'm right on the app. John O'Connor, his preliminary subdivision filing. For this project, Mr. Tonner is the owner of a approximate 12-acre parcel. He is looking to subdivide the land to gain 3 additional single-family lots out here. Currently, he's within AR zoning district, so lot sizes would be about 80,000 square feet, 240 feet of frontage, and various setbacks. He's existing right now with a single-family house, small barn on there, and then he does have a garage area. And we'd be looking to propose a right-of-way, 50-foot standard width that would be meeting town requirements. And then the 3 additional lots we have are proposed to be compliant with what we have for the zoning in AR. In terms of our lot buildable areas, we did include the chart as requested.
Excuse me, on lot 4,
Yes,
you said there's already things on it.
Yeah.
yes, that is his existing single
And
family.
the setback is shown there?
Yes, we do have a setback line. We will have to request, it is already existing non-conforming structures out of there. But in
Well,
terms
it's, yeah, it's non-conforming until we sign this and then this is conform. Only non-conforming until you reapply.
Okay,
Grandfathered in.
Yep.
But as soon as you put it in a new plan, you have to meet the new rules.
Okay.
Which would just mean no lines.
okay. And as mentioned, it would just be the 50-foot right of way with the other lots fully meeting compliance there. Right now, in terms of our lot buildability, the lowest lot will be lot 4 as it is encumbered by 2 drainage easements. And that will be around 85% or so, so still well above any thresholds for the town. And then just to a little bit further, and as you had mentioned, the lot is pretty deep. This is one abutting neighbor, and I believe it is Chestnut or South Street that is on the other side.
What's your diameter on, cul-de-sac?
We do have it as a 63-foot radius, so diameter would be 126 feet. And just to kind of help illustrate what the final look of the project will be, we are going to be proposing full compliance in terms of the right-of-way area. So we'll be proposing a sidewalk that will stretch along one side of the road and then terminate the other side of the cul-de-sac. Just 3 single-family houses. We have oriented those so that they will be meeting the front setback requirement. I believe it's 80% of the frontage. So that number was calculated to be 192 feet. I did have dimensions on the previous sheet to help.
Well, it's a little different. We give you 1 for 1 if it's on straight, but it's 70.
Yep, 75%. But we did try to make sure, though, that we were going to try to have the full compliance there. So we were trying to show.
How many houses on the cul-de-sac?
It's only going to be essentially 1 house that will be on the cul-de-sac here. And then the other 2 will be just off of where the point of curvatures will be.
Question for the board. Do we really need 120 feet of pavement for that?
I mean, we always come to this discussion and then we say maybe there could be a hammerhead. And then we ask the fire chief to write a letter to say, yeah, you can do a hammerhead, and that's what we end up doing.
Okay.
Yeah,
It's just a lot of.
that's a lot of pavement that you don't really need.
Yeah, I understand for that. We kind of figured we'll just leave it as the larger size in case there was any concerns before going through like an official review with the fire department or anybody. But obviously, any place where we can reduce, we'd be more than happy to accommodate there. Just to kind of finish topping things off, purple will be the 3 new houses that we have. And then each lot is proposed to be serviced by a individual well and individual septic system. And then in these 2 other shaded areas here, that would be a proposed above ground infiltration basin. And then to make sure that we catch any runoff before we hit South Street, we are going to be underground infiltration there as well.
So you don't want to run town water and sewer down to there.
No. The town does have plans to bring that down South Street.
And they got
Sure
it-
that we
they
will.
got it repaved at least now. They don't plow it though, just so you know.
One question is, yes, we should send this off to a reviewing engineer.
That would be our question for tonight.
The reason is for you, you're not gonna have any surprises when we tell you the definitive, this is what you need to do, and we get a better overview from him as to what you're planning. So I really recommend we send it out to a peer review.
Sure, that's not a problem or anything.
Helps you as much as us when you get the definitive.
Okay, great. In terms of how this process would work, is it we would receive peer review comments and then just essentially kind of move on to a definitive phase, or do we come back for any additional preliminary meetings at all?
Only if you have questions.
Okay. All right, great. Yeah, no, as far as everything goes, essentially that was kind of our major pitch. We did have a plan and profile here in case anybody gets questions for it. Cul-de-sac, we are proposing 5% to meet regulations. Because we do have some uneven topography out here, we're trying to keep the road as elevated as possible, but we are meeting the 8%.
1% and 1% on the cul-de-sac.
Greg said it was 5%, but if we do have to reduce that, we can reduce that there.
From one side of the, no, I mean, from the cul-de-sac is fine.
Yes, but again, as far as that goes, if peer review or anybody comes back with that, we do have some ability that we can flatten out that cul-de-sac.
Yeah, again, it's, do we?
If we're not doing the cul-de-sac, any.
Do we really?
Yeah.
For one house, basically,
One,
to turn around the park. So we need to know how to turn.
yeah, so that way maybe something, we may ask you to design a more suitable turnaround.
Sure, yeah.
That will both meet the fire trucks and not, put that
Yeah.
much impermeable surface in an expensive area.
And the other thing that when fire reviews it, they'll probably just say put sprinklers.
And that's something that we've had initial discussions with the client on. Nothing's been finalized yet. So at least in the meantime, for our preliminary plan proposal, we did have a cistern easement that was shown on there. That was located towards the front of the property, opposite of where we had our underground infiltration. So in the event that fire sprinklers don't work for any reason, we did have that as a backup option for fire safety.
Yeah, we have had tanks put in the middle of the cul-de-sac as well as having houses sprinkled instead. So
Okay.
you may have either choice.
Okay. As far as any sort of peer review goes, does that go out to like fire chief or anybody else? So that, okay, great.
Yes, so through the chair, so obviously we'll address these specific concerns with fire department. This has already been sent out to all the departments and commissions, nobody provided comments. And so, but we can obviously address those issues. In the past, the fire department has supported, and I imagine they might support, although every case is different. Any changes as a result of the cul-de-sac itself, like you're discussing. They've also supported, reducing the width of the paved
Yep.
right of
Yes,
way
this.
portion if it is sprinkled.
Sorry,
Is that 28 feet right now, the paved? What's the?
we have it as a 50-foot right of way, and I believe there's 26 feet of pavement.
Now, the preliminaries don't usually go to the, just the town board. Only, we do the definitive, the only thing we're supposed to do is send it out definitive stage.
Okay.
Yeah, you can.
I think it's supposed to go to Board of Health.
Well, if the applicant thinks there's gonna be a problem with the police or the fire, or something, they should go.
Yeah.
Before the definitive.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Sure.
But for,
We don't-
for now, I think what we really need to do is send it out for peer review. And then I think it would also, at this point, not wait for the definitive to ask the fire chief whether, can we reduce pavement, which again,
You see that?
you're coming off of South Street and then take a highway, it's, the truck should be able to make it down. And it's not like there's 50 houses back.
Well, if we have the engineer's response from the preliminary, maybe that's the time we could send that to, because the engineer may bring up fire or police or something. Or we could just send it to him right away. What do you think?
Well, the one question I guess I have is if fire is gonna be, yeah, we're okay with reduced width, or we're okay with a hammerhead instead of a cul-de-sac, do we want to give our reviewing engineer that this is what we're actually gonna be looking at? I don't know.
You've already asked them, right? You said it already went out to the town.
Well, I didn't ask them these specific questions. It just, I send out a notice to say, hey, we received this file, see attached plans, let me know if you have comments.
And then I guess it might be worth asking in this case here, in case peer review or anybody brings it up. Right now, from my understanding, South Street doesn't really have anything for like sidewalk or anything out there. Would the board be against if we later during definitive ask for like a waiver or anything on that, since essentially it would be a sidewalk to nowhere right now?
You can answer anything.
Okay.
Yeah, but
Not sure if
let's
there's any.
say that the subdivision that we've just approved does have sidewalk, and it's a 5 house down, a little further down South Street. All of the other things that have come into it have had sidewalks.
It's only on one side. you know.
Yeah, despite the lack of sidewalk on
More
one
for
side.
pedestrians.
Yeah, and that's perfectly fine for us. We can make sure we relay that over to the client and everything. But just figured I'd ask, get some feedback.
Yeah.
But, great, yeah, no, I have no problem with that. Mike, in that case there, would you like reach out, get a peer review quote, send that to us, or do you already have something kind of for prices and stuff?
I usually, well, I don't usually, for preliminary, I want to know if the board will want a review first before, so it's definitive, there's no question that I would get it.
What's the filing fee? It's 500, 750 preliminary.
I forget.
But it's something enough to cover it.
I think it was like an $8,000. Maybe I'm confusing it with the other one.
It's not much for a preliminary.
I
Three
think
or
it
four.
was possibly like somewhere between that, like a couple hundred to maybe like 1,500 range. I don't. think
Either
it
way,
was
I don't, I expect I'll need more money.
Yeah, it's not, it's not gonna cover
Yeah.
peer review.
But do you wanna then reach out, get an estimate?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Or, I mean, I forget who we're on. I mean, I think I'm gonna use Stantec last.
So
I'm gonna go
DGT.
DGT this time.
Okay, great. No, I greatly appreciate it. Thank you.
Any other questions for us? Or-
No, I think I'm generally covered with things. I know you were kind of involved, Dale. Is there anything you might have missed? Any questions?
Sorry, Dale McKinnon from Gary Holman also. No, I think, you've answered our questions, but I guess we'll have to wait on the Hammerhead until we hear back from you talking to
Yeah,
the fire
any
chief.
changes until,
Yeah, until okay, so you wanna get it peer reviewed, then decide.
I mean, I wouldn't want them to go through the.
Change,
Yeah,
and then have fires, or have fires.
Yeah, we don't have any comments back from anybody to support that yet. So,
But I think that's. They've definitely improved that in similar situations.
Then we have to go through a full review with the definitive and everybody. If you want us to submit just with this, and the Hammerhead can always come later.
I think it's good to show and prove.
That you can do the full thing.
Exactly. Yeah.
Nice.
Okay.
Okay,
All right, great. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
all right, thank you. All right. And now we are on the estates. Deja vu all over again.
That is my understanding. I'm Dale McKinnon from Gary and Holman, as I just said. And this is very similar to what was done by the previous engineer. There are some great similarities. One of the things we did was we upgraded the stormwater to use the latest in terms of the type storm. So we'll be using an 8-inch storm instead of the original 6.7. So the infiltration basins are slightly larger. So basically, that's it. I just wanted to bring that to your attention.
Tonight, through the chair, this is the definitive filing that you've received. So it's your typical process is to receive.
Schedule the public hearing and send it out for peer review.
Exactly.
I mean, you're not gonna prove it tonight?
Sorry.
How much money you got for filing fees?
Do we get a check?
7 figures you get your,
So those only come from Qatar, you're not gonna shoot with them, do you?
you want a new jet like.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I gotta run an order for you.
Excellent.
Not been on there.
Okay, so, yeah, we probably will go up for peer review. I'm gonna guess we'll schedule a public hearing for a month out, do you think?
Oh, yeah,
How far out?
At least a month.
Or 6 weeks?
I was thinking June 10th.
Okay. So if we could schedule for June 10th, then you'll have time to get it advertised.
Yes.
I
And
may not be available on June.
I probably won't have.
I am
comments.
definitely not available on June 10th, so we're gonna be at a reduced board on June 10th.
Yeah.
June 24th.
And we don't want you to be the deciding vote.
We probably hit the ground running because I imagine I'll probably have our review comments by then.
By then, yeah, so, yeah, we'll send it out for peer review, June 24th, so that makes sense for you.
And everyone in here as of this moment, they
As of this moment, yes, I will be on for the 7th.
I gotta go to DC for work.
Yeah, so we'll send it out. We just said DGT, are we gonna go back to Stan Tech then with this? Or
He did the last one, so be Sandtech.
Yep, I believe that's the board's
Yeah.
policy, so we can do that.
Can I ask some questions on this, just real quick? The tree, when I was reading the narrative, it said that basically the tree is not gonna survive.
That's what the arborist is telling us, yes.
Have you gotten any feedback or input from residents? Because they're pretty,
I mean, I think the feedback I'm aware of is the feedback you're aware of, is that, which is the feedback that the board received during some of the last public
Yeah.
hearings, which is, yeah. They want to keep that.
okay,
I mean,
And I was concerned, and I think I had mentioned it when, I think it was Michelle from your office. Amanda, excuse me, came by to the office and talked to me about this filing maybe a couple of months ago. And they'd highlighted that as a concern, and I had indicated, yeah, I think there's a strong desire to keep it, but I myself, with the limited knowledge that I have of these things, had great concerns that even if you did try to keep it,
yeah, it depends on how far out of the drip line you are.
yeah, by putting road and all the construction activity right near it, I mean, you really jeopardize the health of it anyway.
Yeah, there's,
I mean, that's my non-professional opinion on it.
yeah, it really depends on how close you go to that tree, right?
Yeah.
Because if you compress the roots with heavy equipment, you pave over the drip line, then
Yeah.
the tree's not gonna like that.
Yeah.
A tree like right at the end of the road here.
Yeah, so it's a,
Yeah,
it's
right,
a,
right.
it's a horse chestnut.
it's a beautiful horse chestnut.
Ken will take it.
It's chestnut.
Ken did would.
Take the leaves down.
I mean, can we ask the town tree warden to weigh in on that? Is that a tree
Is that
warden?
Dennis?
Is that Dennis? Oh, okay, so we don't actually have a tree
I
warden.
was gonna say, we don't have a tree.
We do have a tree warden, but not an arborist.
It's not an arborist tree warden. That is, I guess, my.
Oh, would that be part of the peer review? I mean, seriously, it's,
We can look into those matters during the public hearing, and I can try to get some answers ahead of time.
Dan Boss is still around?
I thought they moved.
They didn't. They no, they're no longer.
Yeah. But there was.
That through the use of your ability as the planning board to look into these matters and the funds that are put in for ESCO for review, I mean,
Yeah.
we can reach out to an arborist, I'm sure.
You're gonna have negative feedback from the people, so if you had another arborist that agreed,
Yeah,
it would
It
be
would-
helpful to sell it to the.
Exactly.
Yeah,
It's safety
ours.
first.
Well, true.
Yeah.
yes,
If it's
exactly.
not gonna be safe, we don't do
A third party.
Yeah.
Arborist, yeah.
and another question I had is last time, there was a big problem with, snow removal. Because, you know, when you enter the, now was that take-
That's a question I don't understand, because the right of way is still 50 feet. It's the same as any other road. And we've got guardrail that are about 3 feet in from that, so we've got a 40, you know, I think they thought that the retaining wall was right against the road and wouldn't be any room, but you've got all that room on both sides to still plow the snow, so.
it. Because you've got you got that road centered in the 50 foot, so
Right.
you'd have at least that much equal on both sides.
Exactly, so I don't understand the question.
but there was
Because they
also an
did
issue
read-
with the retaining wall, that was. those
There
were-
was an issue with the steepness of the retaining wall.
And the stability of it, because of the steepness of it. I'm just wondering, I mean, you
But I
guys
think,
are
you know-
using the same access as before.
Right,
Right.
so, and I think that then our reviewing engineer is gonna look at that retaining wall and
Okay.
tell us whether,
Yeah.
like, it's not up to us whether that's gonna
If
be safe.
for the side slope, instead of 4 to 1 side slope, you put a retaining wall. Is
Yeah,
that
that's-
the reason?
Yes.
It's because of the wetland crossing
Yeah, it's a
and
big cross.
conservation mission, you know.
So, I mean,
We can,
that all goes to the
Yeah.
reviewing engineer to tell us whether it's.
Yeah.
I believe that required, an opinion from a structural engineer.
Right. I
Yeah,
think
so
that
we can
was
try and work that into the,
into the review.
Usually have problems with somebody signing up
Commented
last time, right? Didn't have problems. with
Yeah,
having-
that's similar.
You need a-
Like 3 times.
I believe that was what was expressed from the,
That's why it took so long. because they
Yeah.
asked them to look for somebody.
So there must be on file, on
Yeah.
record, someone is being an issue.
Now, the other issue was attempting to get access from Walnut.
Access from where?
From
Well-
Walnut. Remember, there was a possibility of.
But it was
getting
too,
access
yeah,
that
it
way
was too
without-
long.
Which is not proposed with this.
No.
It's not,
No.
that's what I thought was gonna happen.
Yeah.
It just wasn't feasible because of the lane canal, yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that was being asked.
All right,
We have lowered the road in that retaining area by 2 feet, so the wall, the retaining wall itself is gonna be about 2 feet shorter all the way along the length, so. And I mean, the typical design for those, and we can't design structural, I'm not a structural engineer. I'm just a civil. And I wish I
Just a
was a
civil.
structural. Structural get paid more.
So apologetically, you know.
Anyways, you know, they've got the tiebacks that'll go across the road and
Yeah.
that type of thing. So,
all right, so we'll send it out for review and you'll do the advertising for the 24th?
Yep.
Okay, anything else for right now?
anything we need to do between now and then?
No, I'll be in contact with regard to the scope of review.
Do we have to send out notices though, for the?
Oh, yeah.
So I'll say the 7 o'clock on the 24th.
7:05.
Well, I'll provide you the notice.
Thank you. All right, great.
The latest assessor's list for the area. That's enough.
If you can find the
Yeah, we-
professor in here.
We already have all that.
Yep.
That's it.
All right.
Thank you
Thank
very
you
much.
very much. You too.
You know, you didn't park beside me, did you, Mrs. Chairman?
I did not, I don't know. I think, no, I parked beside Gene Burnett and he drove up, so.
So I don't have to worry about getting in my truck.
That's right, because you came, yeah.
Yep,
Thank you very
all
much.
right, thank you. All right, so how many, when you say have to compile a list of streets we want for traffic counts, how many streets are we talking about? What's the scope of this project?
As many as you want. I don't, it'd be good to just get a list of them and then I'll work with, town manager and CMRPC to see what can be done. You know, what I mean, it would just be good to get like, if there's a priority
Yeah.
in your opinion.
I think if you were, someone had mentioned south, if you're gonna do south, I think you should do it south of the intersection with Chestnut, because that's a way a lot of people come up Oak
Yeah.
and
Okay.
south and into town that way. So you want to make sure, and then they work on.
I'd like to propose Mechanic Street because that's a major pass through. You get to 146.
Yeah.
And, you know, even since I've been living back in town for the last 5 years, it's picked up a lot. But the other thing that's happening is the new proposed, like, you know, changes to 140 are putting the end of Mechanic Street down to a single lane. So you won't be able to make a right-hand turn.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, and that's gonna be, sometimes it's really hard to get out anyway, because people are trying to just get onto Glen Ave or take up. It's,
They have no right to change our road.
they're gonna move the island.
South of what?
Are they doing? Yeah.
That's our-
South,
That we,
see,
that we make it
okay,
flare, just like.
see where Chestnut
Thirty.
comes into south, just,
Oh, South of Chestnut.
yes, because cars come up,
Weren't good enough.
they
Make a
come
right
up Oak and then
You
on to
could make a
south,
right
if you
turn
go a little
because of-
further south
couldn't-
than that. And then
Okay.
you see right
turn.
Oak,
Yep.
and then if you go a little further, you see that's the main drag there between, that's the big Mendon Road there, so people
Yeah.
come into town. That's-
Oh, okay.
Excellent.
Yes.
Um,
All right.
I went to the first meeting.
Yes, 75% design. meetings.
Yeah. And what they wanted to do was just make it so that it was stacked. They're gonna move the island over. And so you could only fit one lane of traffic.
Oh, you mean you can't make both the left and right?
Oh, well, you have to do one at a time.
Right.
So anyone making a anyone making a right-hand turn would have to
Wait for the
wait,
left.
they have to wait for people. And on that street, it's just, I mean, already it gets closer.
That doesn't.
It doesn't make sense.
There's a little veterans memorial in the middle of that too.
They're gonna
We
use
just
the
moved
veterans. That question was asked. And they said, oh, they'll look at that too. But that's,
That's Wood Square. You just change Wood Square.
did both of the Woods brothers die in World War II?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, I think they both did.
So you're gonna consult with the police, the selectmen,
Mhm.
DPW.
Because one of the kids, I'm just hearing about one of the kids today is doing something in town. They're still, maybe the Grange. It's one of them.
Oh, Russ.
Russ?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, Russ is, you said kid, and I thought Russ is.
Yeah, I know, Russ is not exact.
And he said drugstore.
This conversation will go.
And you go into Upton, right in Upton with the first sign you see.
Somebody must have signed up.
Yeah.
It's funny. Oh, Jim Salt, it's now muted, maybe.
GNH.
Think of other streets.
Well, the one going to, 140, the 495 East Street. is
East
one of them.
Street, oh yeah, East Street.
That's one.
Yeah, that's gonna take a lot when the.
Well, question, will they be, the folks with the subdivision, will they be doing the traffic study for the street?
Only if we ask them to.
I mean, we might be able to take that one and have them pay for it rather than us pay for it.
I'm on 17 lots. It's enough fun to
Seventeen
study.
lots, that's
What's
the
just gonna come out of the traffic study? What's the,
Yeah, what's the
What's the- what's the
data
bond-
used for?
yeah, what's the bottom line use of the end result?
I'm sorry, what?
What's the end result? I mean, where do we go with the traffic study after it's completed? What is it?
The legal reason is to increase the size of the road. We do a traffic study to determine whether or not the road needs to be widened
So that people can go faster when they need trees.
or if it needs to be up in a
Up in the
like
speed limit.
minor to secondary to major if we increase it.
Yeah,
But that's thousands of cars increase. It's not,
yeah.
we really don't do it because it's not subdivision is going to increase the structure of the road.
I mean, it's also just good to get a current assessment of how the roads are being used.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Which is why I was suggesting these sort of cut through
Yeah.
roads that maybe where.
Because that's all they do is they sit in an intersection and they measure how many cars go through it, in what direction.
Yeah, I mean, I know,
Traffic isn't just impacted by Upton population.
Yeah.
right? It's impacted by Northbridge population.
Yeah.
I am. I mean, I know from being up by Shining Rock up there, since they've resurfaced all the South Hartford Ave, up from the golf course all the way into West Upton Center there through up into the road.
Yeah.
It's insane in the morning.
Well, that might be another one because
Cross throughs.
the original agreement was that was not, how were they gonna prevent that from becoming a pass-through?
Oh, it's
There was gonna be a gate or something.
What is the street that's past the?
Hartford
South
Ave.
Hartford Ave, it goes up from West.
Up over
up
the,
in-
Oh, yes.
Over the-
That's that you can't do that. You did, and they said you can't do
you
that.
can't do that, right?
We can't put a gate and there was something else.
There was something else.
You can't make it a private road.
That was
That was up the
one of the many nightmare proposed, because that was also the pond.
And they love it, the residents in that, well, senior,
What's that? Upton Ridge?
they want, everybody I've talked to up there said, great, well built,
Oh, it is.
well maintained.
Oh, it is.
Who was it? What was it?
That was built by
Pulte.
Pulte.
Was it?
Yeah, but Pulte was like the third builder in there,
Wherever it was, it was.
the third one that we dealt with.
I'll talk to you all at some point. I'll talk to you all at some point when we're off the record. You can tell me what all the shortcuts that they did.
I built things like,
Oh, you couldn't believe some of the stuff. Yeah, I know.
I met one woman in that there and they told me before I met her, she's gonna ask you, she's gonna say she's looking for a husband.
Oh, Robin.
I said, no, she's in her early 80s and her husband lives with her, but she's sick of him and she's looking for another one.
We know.
Down the basement.
Yeah, perfect.
And I said, how are you doing? She goes, good when I find a husband. First words of,
Well, do you remember there was a guy that was one of the golf course developers? I run Concom still. And we actually, he was so aggressive and obnoxious, like he would yell at us. We actually had the town CCT folks for Upton TV come, and the guy's like, but the camera doesn't work. And we're like, we don't care, just have the camera there
Yeah.
with the light on. So things are.
No, I did that with a political campaign once. It works. I mean, you just carry the camera around, light on, and the person looks important and everyone is like, whoa. So,
But there's the improved behavior.
I don't know, it does. People see
Yep.
that, they don't know there's no.
Well, anyway, I mean, I don't know how it went
Yeah.
before, because I've only you know, been in town for 5 years since I moved in the community, but since that road, I mean, I know when I first drove up that road, it was a path.
Yeah.
And I kept saying to my daughter, I mean, you want me to move where? But anyway, I mean, now that they've redone the road,
Yeah.
I mean, people pour over Shiny
And
Rock.
it's still a hell of a
They
hill.
completed it.
And they,
Yeah.
So what about Mendon Road? I mean,
Yeah.
Mendon
And Christian
Road is
Hill.
busy.
or Mendon Street out towards Mendon itself,
Yeah.
you know, the schools, do we have count on that area?
No, Christian Hill. I do know they were looking
I
at,
think we did a traffic calm, Christian Hill, too long.
Okay.
they were.
Definitely did a traffic calming.
Yeah, there was a traffic
Yeah.
calming there, but I didn't know. how to-
I think they did count as part of
In
it.
order to do the column.
You know, the last one we did downtown was 1,500 cars an hour from 6:30 to 8:30.
Yeah.
Mendon
I
is
didn't get to
planned for
the-
2026.
Okay.
So I don't know what you guys are talking about. The roads that I drive are beautiful.
They're
That one.
fine.
As it would be at 5 a.m.
You're set up on East Street by the Motto Farm, waiting to get to that damn light to go to work.
Just take the number of cars in the Dunkin' Donuts parking lot, multiply by 100. and that's your traffic.
I don't understand why. they
And
do
even
that.
here downtown.
What's that?
And they're like,
If I go down at 8
It's
o'clock,
like,
I can't
why?
get into Donuts, get back up on the street. If I go down at 9 o'clock, drive right in.
I'm sure we probably looked
That's
at
what
William
I'm
Street
trying to
a few times, right?
Williams, huh?
William Street is
Yeah.
a pass through to go.
Let me see.
Williams
It's actually,
Grafton.
Yeah.
it doesn't look like it's on the counts. Oh, yeah.
You give Forest and Cider Mill on there?
We just talked about cider mill and it's already been done.
But what about Forest? Forest is another one. I know
Forest.
it's shaking that.
I think I had mentioned that in my initial comments back to town manager on it, but it's a Forest. And I think we had Cider Mill, but I'll include that as well.
Forest courses.
Yeah.
Template.
It is that winding.
One of the things one of the reasons planning boards are in business is subdivisions, site plan. But the last thing on the number 6 in that thing, it says to study and make recommendations for things we see as needs, improvements, stuff. What is it? Is there anything we should study? Is the center district something we should?
Well, if you want to put in a proposal to do the other.
Well, that's just, continue to talk about the streets before.
Yeah.
How about Prospect? Because Prospect is also right where people speed down the hill. And I've gone up Prospect a couple of times. It does get pretty,
Mhm.
you know. It's if you're going up 140 towards Kelly's.
Yeah, there's a bunch of different ways to come down that
Yeah,
hill.
yeah.
You got Elm Street, you got Prospect Street.
Yeah, all that's,
Yeah.
yeah, it's.
Yeah.
They usually get over to,
It takes you over to the gas station if you're coming home from work. And you're up on East Street and you realize, oh, I should get gas, so I don't have to get it in the morning. That shoots you right down to the gas station.
I don't know, one of you said that the subdivisions in the other towns probably affect our traffic more than anything.
Yeah.
Are there any large subdivisions going on that would, on to the west and south of us that would,
Well, we already got the south. We chose
Not-
South Street.
and this was one of them, right?
not
Yeah,
immediate.
but and also South Street, like south of where Chestnut comes in, so that you get everyone that comes up Oak Drive and south. Because that's the
What's
only way to get into.
what's going on in that town? Do we know subdivisions?
It's mostly built now, that huge one. We approved it a couple of years ago. There's a little corner of it in Upton
Yes.
that you can't actually get to from Upton.
A lot of Grafton's development is happening at like South
Dates at the end.
Grafton closer
That's
to
going up
46.
Yeah.
And,
Well, Charlie mentioned.
or it's
William
happening in
Street,
North
which is
Grafton.
a cut
That,
through from.
they wouldn't come. They might, we wouldn't get most of that
No,
traffic.
you're gonna get
But
You're gonna get this traffic. right?
River on the
Yeah,
other
we
side,
do, 'cause
yeah,
people wanting to get to 495.
Yeah.
Want
That's-
to get on Hopkinton Road.
That's where I come. I live right where the G is in Grafton. And I cut through. That's how I get to 495.
Yeah,
Mhm.
everybody does it. They put something all the way through Northbridge and
And
Grafton.
when that was proposed, we had a long discussion about that was gonna become a cut through of 495, and there was, as Tom said, we talked about even gating it. And the gate would only be accessible for emergency vehicles to stop that. And we were, that was not allowed.
Yeah, I did, yeah.
But there was a stop sign that got put in there.
Yeah, but they just, see how that works up there? I've always become a hood owner and I can't tell you how.
I wouldn't be surprised, yeah. What about River, as Tommy just pointed out? with
West
Moon-
River.
West River, yeah, with Moon Hill there.
Because it's the south and the west of us, the southwest of us that are gonna be the most, they have to go through Upton to get to.
Yeah, so West River is just parallel to Oak on the other side there.
That's great, because I think I had suggested that one as well. So I'm not far off from my estimate, so I'm looking to grab some.
Wonder why.
Yes. Down there by the West Hill Dam Management Area.
A lot of traffic coming down Pleasant too from North Virginia.
Yes, sir.
I was gonna say the intersection where you come off school and jump across to Pleasant is always a
Yeah.
real pain in the.
That is
That's
true.
one of the
Pleasant
things
is slated to do it next year.
they didn't do the traffic study, that's at that intersection.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely, because you're doing
I don't know
that.
what the state has in mind when they go past that, but it's a
It's
a
the only
pretty
way-
tricky spot.
Is the state doing anything with that on 140
School Street,
project? Yeah,
school and Pleasant, yes, those ones up there.
Yeah, that's right.
That beautiful tree, it might be at risk in order to do that.
What about the lowering the traffic into town by making it a center district and having the state change the speed limit because we are now an official village center?
Oh, thank you for the reminder on that. Yes. Continue that conversation with DOT.
Poses a new limit to go through the.
Yeah, for this, I think they're gonna square this at more of a 90-degree angle coming in. That's
So right now, the way they do it is they sit there and they measure people's speed
Yeah,
coming, and then they add them all up, and if it's, and they deduct it 10 miles an hour. So if everybody's going 55, the average speed, they'll lower it to 45, which it is. And the average is probably 50 to 55, so we wouldn't get 30 miles an hour ever
yeah,
using the way they do it. So we have to designate the town center as a village district, and then you can lower it to 30.
what is the street that hugs the cemetery when you get up that horrible intersection on Hopkinton and Westboro?
North Main,
Because
Main Street.
Yeah,
that one gets a little bit, at the end, that gets really bad.
yeah, he's that.
But I think that's always been a little bit. And basically all these streets in Upton, the ones like that are gonna be disasters. But Mechanic Street, just as they put that light in it,
With the fellowships, too many walkers,
people just don't. Like it.
I can attest to that.
too many walkers on Fowler Street.
All right. Any other topics that anyone has?
No.
Okay.
I will be here.
All in favor?
I-
Reorg-